editing suite had this wallpaper, so I'm not lying when I say it feels like home. Portal would be the earliest influence. It's the easiest one for me to pin down as like the strongest influence over like everything I've done in my entire life probably. It's a 2-game series, so if anything I would say Portal 2 was the bigger inspiration for me. It was all built around this mechanic of having this gun or tool that's able to open a portal in one wall and another one there, and it's sort of a physics-based puzzle game where you're traveling through this AI-operated test center, this testing track, and you're slowly unraveling as you wake up out of a stasis pod at the beginning of the game. You're slowly seeing that there's only like kind of a monotone, what feels like a robot, slightly inhuman voice talking to you the whole time, and it's very corporate. It feels like there's something slightly wrong with it. It's inherently kind of comedic and absurd, and that's kind of what I like about it. All of these, so many like kind of bleak creative choices come from an inherent humor.
Well done. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person.
There was like one specific thread that really stuck with me when I was younger, which was throughout the first game and more so in the second game when they've sort of solidified their art direction, you can see these murals on the wall of like one other person. Like you can clearly see traces of another human being in this place, and there's some specific moments in the film with like these murals, and I guess just in general it's probably obvious how and why this connects to Backrooms, and I think you can probably tell that this is maybe the one that's most special to me because I won't stop rambling about it. The general set construction of the Portal games is something that's been in my brain for so long. I frequently have dreams where I'm just in the Aperture Research Center. It's not yellow, it's very gray and blue and kind of bleak, and by the second game it's rotting and it's totally falling apart, but it's vast in a lot of ways. It feels like an eternal indoors that goes on in all directions that is just absurd in its scope. So I think it's actually very similar to Backrooms in that front. It's so clearly in my head because I've watched it about 8 times or so. I get very, very into the things that I get into. And Mr. Robot, I feel like is really one. Like when I was first, I had watched it for the first time, right? Like it was overlapping with making the first Backrooms episode, and I kind of finished both those experiences the same week, and I immediately rewatched Mr. Robot again afterwards. And I was 16 at the time, so some of these things were maybe a little more profound or felt like I was being spoken to in a way that is maybe a little more special than it actually truly is. But I felt like Mr. Robot was a very healthy and, competent synthesis of our, human circumstances and societally speaking inside the United States and how it informs the internal world of this one character. And you can go as big as you want, but at the end of the day, it's all just being perceived by a single brain and a single head, and it all kind of goes back to a place of that inner world. I think that's been a big thing. It's like scope ballooning outwards, but really it's all just about this one simple point. Artistically, I just love the way it's shot. Love the soundtrack by Matt Quayle. That's probably of all the specific films that I feel like it's the one we referenced the most visually and tonally for Backrooms. I think certainly on a cinematography front and an acoustic front, we definitely went to it quite a lot. I mean, I feel when you look at it, it inherently is pretty, thoroughly in the language of Backrooms, where it's a story that focuses on an individual who's sort of fallen into an isolated place in life where he's, got his profession and he's got the deal he's made with the modern world and the world we live in, and how he, uses some very specific technical functions of this modern world to give him a profound feeling of purpose and engagement with his life and in a sense of self. I think it just happens to be a favorite of mine in that the performances are strong and the subject matter is certainly, I would like to think it's believable in some ways. It's clearly, a product of its time, but also a very relevant one now as well. And I think it's a pretty truthful piece of art. I think within that, it feels like you don't really feel the artifice of it too much. And I think when it comes to producing found footage or like unfiction material, like with the ARG stuff that I care so much about online, it's, I think it's a pretty strong North Star just to, kind of point to stuff that's kind of trying to represent reality in a thoughtful and nuanced way, like specifically the way this is going to look and sound and feel and be structured and politically as well. It just feels like it, could have been ripped from reality, and I appreciate that. I guess it's influenced maybe my other series, The Oldest View, a little bit more than Backrooms, or it feels more in line with that one, but I think they're all kind of in conversation with each other. I think I'm very drawn to stories that acknowledge, the the sort of metatextual aspects of, the person watching the body of work, and obviously inside Paranoia Agent. It's not so much like a divine reckoning or anything as much as it is like you can clearly see there's this sort of being or entity or force of nature, or it's not defined and it shouldn't be defined and you don't need to define it, but it's metabolizing itself into this physical form that is somehow, drawing from and reacting to and responding to a trait within people that is just escalating given the track that we've been on as a society over the past few decades and centuries. There's similar elements in Backrooms for sure, where I think obviously Backrooms is responding to, a lot of the anxieties around, the level of urbanization and industrialization and sort of like corner cutting we're at right now, where there's so much information but it means so little to most people. I just appreciate the somewhat more non-literal but also deeply logical path that Paranoia Agent takes to sort of creating this force of nature that is both driven by the people in that world, but also more so the evolutionary system behind all of them, the thing that every person has to deal with. It feels like nature, I'd say.